Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Godspeed. Godspeed is a Turkish drama that tells the story of Yüzbaşı Salih, an ex-army captain forced to retire from the military on account of the loss of his left leg suffered from his combat duties. Even after he recovers from his injury, he still deals with pain as a result of his post-traumatic stress disorder. His friend Kerem, who he also served alongside with, tells him that his partner has been ordered by her father to marry another man instead of him. Ever faithful to his brother-in-arms, Salih breaks out of his hospital room and departs with Kerem for the city where the wedding will take place in an attempt to stop it, while Salih grapples with his trauma at the same time. I always admire the lengths that Turkish dramas go toward pulling their viewers' heartstrings, but this sometimes results in their stories losing focus, and this movie is an example of that. It's great at portraying the relationship and journey of its main characters, but its confusing presentation reduces its impact. Salih was a decent character for the most part. His actor does a good job at portraying the mental duress he still experiences after finishing his service. The reasons behind his road trip are questionable, but they lean more toward being understandable and sympathetic as the story goes along. I liked how driven he was to accomplish his goals, which shows the discipline he still retains from his military career. His personality can be over the top at times, which I'll talk about later, but he does remain mostly sympathetic throughout the movie. His friend Kerem is much less unhinged compared to Salih. His joking nature was off-putting at times, but in general it was a welcome addition for the trip. He adds comic relief at mostly appropriate times when Salih's temper starts to flare up, which helps reduce the awkwardness of the situation. He also has a lot of backstory behind him which explains his relationship with his partner Elif, and how confident he is that she is the love of his life. Everything he does in this movie is for her, and despite the hardships he experiences, he manages to go through it all with a smile on his face, so in the end it's hard not to like the guy. The brotherhood that exists between the two goes beyond the service they had together. It isn't quite evident at first, but as the story moves along, more details are gradually revealed that explain circumstances in their lives, so the movie has a mystery element to its story that makes it easier to become invested to see what happens next. Most of these details are revealed in the form of flashback scenes, in which the movie flips from past to present, both from Salih and Kerem's perspectives. The extra information they add to the story does help add context to their actions, but the movie goes a bit overboard with how many of them there are. Some of these flashbacks go for several minutes and distract from the main story that's supposed to be taking place, and the switch between past and present isn't always obvious. A few of these flashbacks exist only for the sake of comedy from Kerem's behalf, so while a good chunk of them are entertaining, a lot of it ends up being filler. When the movie is more focused on the road trip to the wedding, the story is much more engaging. Their journey takes multiple twists and turns that find them experiencing a variety of hiccups while traveling, which vary between being amusing and heartbreaking. Much of the humor in this movie comes from the banter exchange between Salih and Kerem. Kerem rarely loses his cool even when Salih is furious, which often forces Salih to regain his composure. This was a great way of demonstrating how deep their bond was, as well as being funny overall. There are also moments in the trip where Salih's PTSD starts to unravel. It's unpredictable as to when his outbursts occur, so there's this lingering sense of tension throughout the story, and this is backed up by distinctive editing techniques which highlight the degree of trauma that he's experiencing on screen. Now, while I admire the level of dedication put into portraying Salih's PTSD, as I mentioned earlier, he can become quite ridiculous at times. His constant need to walk around carrying a gun, being nasty to innocent bystanders, and frequent mood swings border on making him a caricature, which made it hard to take his struggle seriously. In one scene, the two spot a couple on the side of the road whose car is broken down, and they pull over to help give them a ride to the next gas station, only for Salih to panic upon learning they have weed in their possession while they're coming up to a police checkpoint, and the others panic when they realize he has a gun, resulting in silliness all across the board. This leads to the biggest complaint I have about this movie. The tonal shifts are all over the place. One minute Salih and Kerem will be laughing and joking with each other, and then the next they'll be arguing, and that's just the best case scenario. There were times when I didn't even know if the movie was trying to be funny or serious or both all at once, and it broke my immersion for the story. What's even worse about these shifts is that a scene that has them will just suddenly end when it's about to get interesting. Salih will often be getting into it with somebody, either with Kerem or someone else, and without warning the scene will just end and move on to the next, and the movie's pacing suffers greatly because of this. During these back and forth shifts, I kept scratching my head wondering why the cops hadn't been called on Salih yet. He gets away with way more trouble than he should, especially considering that he had broken out of a supervised hospital. The lack of an impending authority searching for him was a missed opportunity that could have raised the stakes of the story. In fairness, however, a part of this is fulfilled to a certain degree by Salih's wife Duygu. I enjoyed seeing how dedicated she was to supporting Salih, as well as how careful she had to be with trying to find him, as she he's the only other person who knows better than anyone else what he's gone through. Much of the movie can be interpreted as a critique of Turkey's treatment of military veterans, and how some get the care they need while others fall through the cracks. The movie's unfocused nature affects how it approaches this vision, but when it works, it is brilliantly scathing in its execution. Plenty of metaphors can be found to represent the grief and trauma that veterans carry with them long after their service, the most obvious of which is a partridge which Sally carries in a cage for the majority of the movie. Sally starts off with hope when it's alive, thinking it'll be free just like Sally thinks he is when he's on the road. Then his hopes are shot down, quite literally, and he falls into a darker place than he was before. And the scenes where it's just him ruminating over his life without dialogue are fantastic. The emotional resonance this bird brought to the narrative was easily the best part about the movie. The ending is preceded by a plot twist that can be seen coming a mile away, especially for those who've seen Paper Lives. But while it's easily foreseen, it at least happens fairly early on and allows for a proper conclusion to follow, even if it takes a long time afterward for it to happen. Overall, Godspeed is an average drama that explores the effects that PTSD has on veterans, but its patchwork pacing and story reduces the meaning behind its message. If you're looking for a tearjerker drama to watch and you don't mind seeing one whose story and characterization is all over the place, you might enjoy checking this one out. I wanted to like this one a lot more than I did, and there are still good things about it. The themes, the relationship of the lead characters, and the variety of situations they get into are enjoyable enough, but its numerous tonal shifts and flashbacks hamper the experience down into something that isn't quite the same as its title suggests. What did you think about this movie? Did you think there was a good mix of comedic and dramatic elements, or did you find the tonal shifts to be as problematic as I did? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's gonna wrap up my review of Godspeed. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review part 1 of Stranger Things Season 4. Bye bye!